Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Dara Taylor. This is a kaftan dress with a band and also a side slit. So if you're interested in how I made this, then keep on watching. Don't forget please to like and to subscribe, and also tell me what you think on the comment section. So I already folded it. This is the back and also this is the front. To determine your front and your back size, I have a video of this which I will be leaving at the end of this video. So for the shoulder is 14 and a half. When I folded it, it gave me 14 and a half. So when I open it, it's obviously going to give me 29 inches. Then I marked out my neck width. My neck width was 3 and 3 inches. My neck depth for the back, I'm working with 1 inches, and then I'm just going to connect the lines together. For the front depth, that is the neck deepness for the front, I'm using 2 inches. So it is advisable, this is a high neck tutorial, so it is advisable to use 2 or 3 inches. Do not go down. If you use 4, it's not going to give you what you want again. So now for the deepness of my hand, I'm measuring out 8 inches. I want this hand to be free, and that is why I'm working with 8 inches. This kaftan hand is meant to be free, that is why I worked with 8 inches. So then the next thing I did was to mark out my bust circumference underneath where I measured my hand, and my bust circumference was 8 inches. And how I got 8 was I divided my original bust circumference by folded into 4. My waist length is 14 inches, and then I already marked 14 inches there. And then I'm going to impute my waist circumference also. The same way to determine your bust circumference is the same way you use to determine your waist circumference. And I connected the lines together. And then for my hip length, how to get your hip length is just from your shoulder to where your hip started from. The same thing goes with the bust. I then marked out my hip circumference also, and I connected the lines together. So the next thing we are going to do at the bottom is the same hip circumference we use. That is what we are going to be using to go down. We're not going to add anything. A kaftan is supposed to be straight. It is not a line. It is not going in an A shape form, so it's straight. We are using the hip circumference measurement, assuming is 9 inches. We are going all the way down by what, 9 inches. We're not slanting anything. We're just going all the way down by 9 inches. You can see the bottom of it, right? You guys can see the bottom. This kaftan is a loose fitted gown, right? So I'm just going to go in to add my allowance. Your allowance should be to 3 inches. 3 inches is enough. 3 for the waist, for the bust, and also for the hip. Remember, your kaftan dress should not be tight at all. So it is that allowance area you are going to be sewing on, and not the main measurement, right? So I just went ahead to cut out all these things that I already drafted out. After cutting this out, we are going to be tearing the front part open, and I used 7 inches. I came down by 7 inches to tear the front part open. But then this is a voiceover I'm doing, and after doing this, after sewing this, I later realized that 7 inches was too deep. So then I used 5 inches. So if you are working with this, do not use 7 inches here, guys. You can use 4 to 5 inches, but not 7. 7 is way too deep, right? So let's assume we use 5 inches over here. So I teared it open by 5. Look at what I did. Look at the opening over here, right? So this is what I did over here. And the next thing, this is an interface I'm trying to cut for the back. I just placed my back piece on top of it, and then I'm just going to cut out the pattern of it because I'm going to be using it to turn it over. Then I went in to make a cuff pattern on it. It's better doing a cuff pattern so that it will be able to relax when you attach it with the original back. So this is what it's looking like after doing it. I'm going to be placing it on top of the back. So I placed it on top of it, and I'm just going to be sewing over this area. You guys see where I'm the direction. So after sewing it, this is what it's looking like, right? So for the front, this is the interface I'm working with for the front. It's just the same material, and then I cut out the same pattern by placing my front piece on top of the interface, and then you guys can see what I did. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making a cuff pattern also the same way I did for the back area. I made a cuff pattern over here. So this is a hairstyle that is over here, and I'm just going to be using it and be placing it on top of the interface. And the reason is because using a hairstyle is going to make it to be thick, and the neck is something that has to relax, so that's why I use a hairstay. You guys can see the pattern I cut over here, and then I placed it on the original front piece, and I'm going to sew on top it. And I also have my interface here that I'm going to be placing on the front piece also, but before then I'm going to be sewing over this area. I placed it on top together, right, together with the interface, and I'm just pinning down the areas that I'm going to be sewing. But then, honestly speaking, I didn't really like the final look when using a hairstay. But if you are using, I'll recommend you using a gum stay rather than a hairstay. A gum stay is more thicker. When I finished this was literally falling off, right? So use a gum stay so that it won't fall off, just like my own did. So I recommend you using a gum stay. I sewed over this area first, and this is what is looking like, right, after sewing the area. You guys can see, and then the area I'm marking with my chalk is the area that you are also going to be sewing. This deep curve we made, this deep cut we made, and that is the area. So after sewing that area, I'm going to be using my scissors to tear it up. Please note, if you're using a gum stay, it's the same process also. So I used my scissors to tear this up, and I'm just going to be notching it on all sides. And the essence of notching is if you don't notch it, it's not going to relax. So I'm just making a little cut over there, and when I'm making a cut, you just have to be careful with the cut you make so that you won't tear excess of the cloth, right? So then I just went ahead, I made it all over the neck area that I sewed, and then I'm just making a cut here literally. Notching the areas that I said, I'm going to turn it over. So just watch the way I turned it over. And it is essential that after turning it, you iron it. So when you iron it, it's going to give you a better relaxation, right? It's essential you ironed it. I connected it through the shoulder area, both shoulder areas, and I'm done sewing that. And the next thing I did was to fold the arm area. That place we came down by 8 inches. That was where I folded, and then you guys can see where I folded. Look at how it's looking like after folding it, right? So the next thing we are going to do is to impute our body measurement, and for this I came down by 16 inches, and the essence of coming down by 16 inch for my waist length was just because of the band that I'm going to be imputing, right? I didn't want to come down by 14, I came down by 16. I imputed my hip length, which was 22 inches also, and then I marked it at both sides also. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to be imputing the circumference of my bust, my waist, and my hip. And remember guys, if you are imputing your bust, your waist, and your hip measurement, you have to add 3 inches allowance, because this is a kaftan dress, just like I said before, and it's not meant to be tight. 3 inches allowance is perfectly okay, right? So I just imputed all that. I connected the lines together also, and the next thing I'm going to do is to add in my hip circumference. I marked out my hip circumference, and remember what I said, when you are marking out your hip circumference, you're going to be going all down by the same number. If you are getting 22 inches for your hip circumference, you are going to go all down. And because I opened this cloth is currently folded into two, so imagine my waist circumference is 30 divided by 2 that I'll be placing on top. That is 15 inches. So for this my hip over here, it was 17.5 inches, guys. I came down all the way down by 17.5 inches. So I measured out my slit area, which was 38. From my shoulder to the place I wanted my slit to be, it was 38 inches. And then I'm going to sew all over to the point of 38 inches. I'm not going to be sewing all the way down. I will sew all over to the point of 38 inches. So you guys can see where my sewing is going to be starting from the sleeve area down to the point of 38 inches where my slit stopped. So this slit is just anyhow you want it. It depends on how you want it. So from that point of slit, you guys can see the way I folded it. From the point of that 38 inches below, I'm going to fold it. See the way I folded it. So after folding it, I fold it at all 4 sides. This is what it's looking like after folding. I folded it at all 4 sides. I also went ahead to fold the bottom parts of the dress. So this is the way I folded it, guys. And then we have our band here, and this band is 6 inches wide, folded into two. And then for the length, you are going to see the outcome of the length. The length is 31 inches. So for the my waist measurements divided by 2 is 15 inch, but I made the length 31 inch. And the way you are going to make this band is the way you make a scrunchie. You know how to make a scrunchie, so that is the way we are going to be making this band. So I passed my elastic. When you are working, you are going to be working with a big elastic band. So I passed my elastic through here, and the length of my elastic is 14 inches. And remember, the original length of this band for the material is 31 inches. So I pinned down this area because I'm going to be sewing over this area multiple times, and then I'm just bringing out my elastic through the other area of it. I already brought it out, and this is what it's looking like. I am also going to pin down the other area just to secure it, and I'm going to be sewing over that area. You sew it multiple times, and then the next thing we're going to do is to sew the middle of it. When you are sewing, you open it and you sew it up. You sew the middle of it. This is going to give it a beautiful design. You sew the middle. So this is what it's looking like, guys. After sewing the middle, I sewed the middle of this, guys. You guys can see how nice it is looking. So this is going to go at the back. I just measured it out, and it was giving me about 15 inches, right? I am then going to impute it to this area. So then I marked out 16 inches. 16 inches. I marked out 16 inches for my waist length because that is where it's going to be starting from. I also did the same thing. I marked out 16 inches for that area also. The next thing I'm just going to do is to tear that place open. You guys, you see, from the point of that 16 inches, I teared it open. You can see the way I teared it open. I opened this up with my razor. So this is what it's looking like. So I'm just going to be passing this through that hole that we made over there. I passed this through the hole we made over there. You guys can see the way I am passing it through the hole we made. And then after passing it through the hole, we are going to be sewing over this area. You guys see, right? So we're going to be sewing over this area, connecting it with our other measurements that we sewed. So we're going to be sewing over. So this is what it's looking like after sewing it. I sewed it multiple times just to secure it, and then we're going to be bringing our band through the other area. I brought out the band through the other area, and I'll be sewing there. So this is what our band is looking like, and it's going to be at the back side. So this is what it's looking like. Thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure to turn on your notification bell so that whenever I post, you will be the first to know. See you guys on my next tutorial.